All right, I'm Captain in Arms for Radio Free Araxis, and I am here with Lanzer. Is that correct? Did I say it?
That's right.
Lanzer of Planetside And real quick, for those who don't know, Lanzer, can you describe who you are? Actually, here it might be even better. Can you describe what Planetside Battles is for those who are not in the know?
So Planetside Battles started in 2014, and our mission is to create fun events for the Planetside 2 community and showcase those events. And those two facets make up both all the events we offer, like Lane Smash, Server Smash, Faction Smash, PSBL, and then the casting that we do on Twitch with our observer cameras.
Yeah.
We are an organization that hosts events that shows just how large and how explosive PlanetSide 2 can be. From anywhere from a 25 on 25 to a 256 on 256 and beyond. We find matches, we host matches, and we make them happen.
Specifically, what position do you hold in Planetside Battles?
I'm on what would normally be called an executive board on a nonprofit. So we call them the admins, and I've been an admin since the beginning. I co-founded it with Dotsor and Alleluia. Dotsor and I are still on the board. We on the admin team. The admins are responsible for finding volunteers and then the overall direction of Planetside Battles. We make sure that everything that happens on a daily basis is in accordance with our mission and that we are constantly working towards the betterment of the community.
Just to stress this again, this is a non-profit organization. Planetside Battles specifically is a non-profit organization.
Specifically, yes. So for all the legalists out there, it is not a 501(c). So you won't find it incorporated anywhere, but it is the equivalent of a nonprofit. We have expenses that we pay for, and any revenue that we get through donations goes to our operating expenses. The only difference you might say is that none of our board members, none of our staff members get paid. So we exist solely to fulfill a function. We're not for profit. We're not anything of that sort.
Thank you right off the bat for all the time and efforts that PSB's been putting in. You guys have been doing this for years, as you said. So it's really cool. It's really cool to see a community flourish like this. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, we had a huge announcement from PSB in the just this past week. It was an agreement between Daybreak Games and the Electronic Sports League. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you go into this agreement and what it is, and what will this mean for PS2?
The negotiation effort started back in June of last year, so June of 2016, and it began with the idea that as Planetside Battles, we had been offering as much as we could to the community that we had, and we saw a need to expand awareness of PlanetSide 2 so that we could contribute to the larger gaming community and help grow its awareness of PlanetSide 2. A lot of gamers don't even know what PlanetSide 2 is. And when we explain to them what it is, the normal reaction I get is, are you serious? There's such a thing as 1,000 people on each side just fighting in an MMO style first person shooter, and then it's all off to the races after that point. So the objective here was, how can we showcase our events to the gaming community? The deal with ESL was, how can we improve our reach among non-PlanetSide 2 people? How can we grow that part of the viewership? I found some ESL contacts through another group I'm associated with. It's called EPN, the Esports Professional Network. It's a pretty large network of esports professionals and just esports enthusiasts where from all walks of life in the esports industry, whether it be a team owner, writers, marketers, you name it. It's a big network, and it's free to join. Anybody can do it. We tried our hand with MLG, and at some point I tried to get back in touch with them, but I didn't have any success there.
Was that the effort by Higby, led by Higby a couple years ago, who tried to get an official MLG section going for Planetside 2?
That was not the same effort. I wasn't involved with that effort. The MLG effort I'm talking about now is something I did specifically.
Okay.
So because I'm more of like the external business side, I'm more of the negotiator, the strategic leader of sorts. That's kind of my unofficial function within the admins. So
It's kind of the direction of where it's going to go.
right, and within the admins we have unofficial functions that we try to fill, even though we speak for each other, so anybody can really fill any function. But we tend to gravitate towards what we like best about the game and how we feel we can best contribute. Mine is strategic leadership, planning, and strategic hierarchical
Sure.
direction.
Sure. Yeah, damn, someone's going to do it, right?
Right, exactly. So like the fairness doctrine, I was one of the main engines behind that, and that sort of thing. So ESL came to light because I figured I didn't know a whole lot about ESL except for what I had seen on Dota 2. Or I'm sorry, not Dota 2. The big majors that they have.
Right.
So I took a shot and went to EPN, found some people who worked for ESL, and then contacted them, and they got me to the right person.
Will Planetside 2 come up on like the ESL website somewhere? Is there a place that like fans of ESL or people who go to that website or that organization specifically who don't know what Planetside 2 is, will they suddenly see that on maybe a special thing on the drop-down menu for them? Or can you describe in real, like, what will that actually mean for where Planetside 2 is going to come into this?
Gotcha. So the deal itself centers around one thing for both sides, and that's exposure. In tangible terms, for ESL, we will. ESL agreed to give us retweets on Twitter via their @ESL Play handle, share our stories and our posts on Facebook via their ESL News Games account, and we're figuring out the the Twitch aspect as far as rebroadcasting and rehosting on one of their Twitch accounts. And then finally the website function, which you're referring to, is, as of right now, there is a global Planetside 2 page. I'll link it to you here in chat.
Okay.
Which is the first round of the landing page for Planetside 2 on ESL Play. Now from there, that page will likely grow. From there, they also are featuring us on their upcoming cups section, which I'll give you here. And then finally, their new games section, which is there, that third link. So, and you'll see we're right alongside where it says For Honor. You see Dawn of War. I'm not sure when that will be posted up. I'll have to ask my contact in ESL, but that's where you'll see it, where it says highlighted games, or down below where you see Hearthstone. So it'll be along those myriad of games that are already available. So tangibly speaking, that's what PSB receives from ESL, and it all centers around that one word, which is exposure.
Right. It's a win-win, right? As you said.
Exactly. And ESL on their end, they receive endorsement. I put endorsement in quotes. What it really is PSB has agreed to encourage players to register for ESL Play's website, and we've done that through the creation of server teams, which I link into the PSO, the post. And from there, we're testing out how far. This is the fluid part. We're testing out how extensive we'll use their system. But the idea is that when we start putting together tournaments, it streamlines the tournament process, and that people can more readily join a team because and identify what team they're fighting for, and rosters are accomplished much faster.
Sure.
But the underlying thing there is that PSB will encourage players to utilize ESL Play's free membership and rise player registration for ESL Play. So, and that's what they identified as their main interest out of all this. It wasn't money, it wasn't royalties, it was we would like to increase our player registration for ESL Play. You want Planetside 2 to be increased in reach. Is that something you can facilitate? And we were able to come to an agreement.
All right. So so far, ESL they host Planetside 2 on their website and their Twitch to an extent, and then for Daybreak Games, they're essentially plugging ESL in the same way, and then Planetside is kind of the intermediary doing all the work to put the content out. Is that kind of TLDR
that's
on
correct.
what is?
I would just note there that Daybreak Games won't be the one putting in a plug for ESL Play, to my knowledge. It'll be PSB through our faction reps and through our any sort of broadcast we use. Will emphasize that ESL Play is available. Please register. It's as fast as Reddit.
I gotcha. So, are there any changes coming to Planetside Battles and how they operate as a result of this agreement, or are things pretty much just going to stay the same and how things are streamed?
In the foreseeable future, not that I am aware of. This was more of the pinnacle of our everyday operation, and the idea was that this would be non-impactful. That's the way I negotiated the effort between the two of us, because we're all volunteers at the end of the day, and there's only so much that our team can handle at any one time. So I negotiated it in such a way that it would be as least impactful to our team as possible and yield as much result as we could. So when it comes to the casting team, we've been back in talks with our production and how we can improve our production value. We've been looking at the usage of different camera angles and software that would allow us to do that. So it's kind of renewed some old conversations that we've been trying to, but haven't been successfully able to accomplish. So it did breathe a second wind in some of those efforts. But overall, I haven't seen a change, nor do I anticipate a change in, say, like our structure.
So how many members are working for Planetside Battles currently?
Ooh,
I know there's a lot of personnel. There's casters, camera people, technicians, people like you who are behind the scenes.
All right, so right now we're sitting at about 55 members.
Wow.
That's down a little bit, and at our peak we were at about 135. Back when Service Match was happening every single week, and we were constantly pulling 200 plus. Since then, we've steadily leveled out at about 50 to 70 people.
This includes server reps.
This includes everything. Yes, server reps, casters, all of them.
Okay, I see. So pretty much anyone affiliated with Planetside Battles in an official capacity. Okay.
That's right. Anyone contributing to the mission in an official capacity.
So what can the community do to help Planetside Battles?
Number one would be registering for an ESL Play account. And I say that with the knowledge that would be us fulfilling our end of the bargain. The more value we can give to ESL Play without becoming unreasonable, the more that ESL Play will see value in increasing their effort in granting exposure for Planetside 2, which benefits everybody.
So this is a free sign up on ESL.com.
ESL Play. ESL Play is no problem. It is the operational arm of ESL, kind of like more of the. It's sort of like Planetside Battles, but for a bunch of different games, and the system is a little bit more automated.
Okay.
The second way is just be influx of new players. I mean, do what Planetside players do, which is, I mean, welcome the player, shoot them up, and then help funnel them into an outfit so that our community can grow and it'll feed itself in the end.
Do you have any, just off the cuff estimates on maybe how many this may bring in, or is that just kind
I
of too big of a factor to even think about?
It's too big of a factor. I don't have
Yeah.
a good answer for you on that.
All right. Do you have any? I could just look this up myself. Do you have any numbers on how many people go through ESL in like a week, or how many quote unquote members they may have, like their numbers? I can
I
look that
did
up.
at some point. Let me pull up my notes.
Sure.
Okay, looks like they have 7 million members and about 90,000 tournaments
And that's
that
everything.
they're right. That's everything. I don't know how specific. I have many more specific numbers after that.
Yeah. A lot of those signups could be, just one and done, never come back.
That's
Possibly.
true.
A lot of those tournaments that you mentioned, of the thousands, a lot of them could be like low level stuff that never really took off. But
That's true.
that's still a very, very high number. So it doesn't hurt to get into that.
That's true.
There have been some questions, I think some legitimate questions, on the viability of PlanetSide 2 as an esport. So you've experimented with different levels of scale. PlanetSide's biggest unique factor is its scale, right? Hundreds and hundreds of
Yes.
people. We can all look back to the record smash on Hossin to see the finest example of that. But you've experimented with server smashes, which are the biggest, and then lane smashes, which is more mid-tier combined arms. And then you even have, there have been, I don't even know if this was through specifically Planetside Battles, but I know there's been the Farmers League, the Scrim Masters, kind of 6v6, 12v12 matches.
Hmm.
There have been some questions on, can Planetside 2 convey an entertaining experience for viewers, for especially for people who are not involved with Planetside at all? Because I know over a 90-minute period, things can be very confusing. Again, specifically from the point of view of someone who's never played Planetside 2. Yeah, just
That's a
yeah,
that's a really good question, and been something that has been more of my focus for these past few years. In addition to making sure that we're trying to include the community and not just focus on one aspect, whether it be hardcore or casual. But that second part of my focus was, how do we showcase the community and the game in such a way that it makes sense for a viewer who has played PlanetSide 2 and has not played PlanetSide 2. So the elements that I've been considering for that and that we've been working towards is in trying to tailor the experience in a way that ESPN does, where they have a very specific audience that they tailor for. They bring in people who are very specific in their role. You'll notice that our casters, they at first started out very, very broad, and then you had Farah, and Farah has been our main caster for years, and he was very play-by-play, and the play-by-play was meant to emphasize the tactical action that happened over. I'm losing my words here. Let me just restart.
there is
So
a
Farah,
special, yeah, there's a special skill to color commentary, from football to baseball to Planetside 2.
Mhm.
It's not as easy as it looks. So I think,
it's really hard. I've tried it myself, and
oh, yeah,
Farah,
I tried it
yeah.
myself in the last server smash.
So Farah was our answer to, how do we communicate to the PlanetSide 2 player? How do we communicate in a way that is interesting to them? Farah was our answer, and people like Farah. So our color commentators, which are kind of the strategic talkers, they comment on the match over the course of time and how it contributes to an overall victory. That was our attempt to help the player who doesn't know much about PlanetSide 2. So to an extent, we tried to introduce elements in our production that helped both sides of the equation. Those who knew about Planetside 2 and wanted to see all the particulars that were happening as it played, as the match played out, and then those who didn't know much about Planetside 2 but knew what a gun looked like and knew what happened when a person got shot. To your question, the viability of Planetside 2 to the outside community, in particular to esports, I willfully did not address that because in my mind, Planetside 2, once you understand it's a little bit of future focused and the guns may look different but they still shoot the same way. The tactics may be a little bit different and the particulars of lattice lines and all that. But in the end, you're trying to defeat and overwhelm your opponent and destroy their assets. It doesn't really change over just because you play a futuristic game. The idea is how do we communicate and bridge that difference in knowledge? Meaning, that yes, this tank may be floating in air, but it's still a tank. It fires large rounds. It can be destroyed by anti-tank weapons. That's the sort of thing that I was concerned about because in my mind, we were concerned primarily with showcasing the events and then letting the events speak for themselves. Do our best to provide a translation to any sort of audience that was watching at the time, but I made no comment on how viable we were for esports because I let the viewer decide that. We were concerned primarily with just providing the content and letting the reaction come from there.
So you're saying Planetside is just such a different game from the rest. Like, I'll just choose the two most popular ones, Counter-Strike and StarCraft, right? Because they're just such different experiences. You think that kind of the scale in itself is kind of what draws people in, and then you're saying that you can trust the viewers, even those who may not be familiar with Planetside. You can say they can trust that they can kind of figure out what's going on, or they'll be convinced enough to go try the game themselves. Is that what you're banking
That, in
on?
a nutshell, yes.
Okay.
That is pretty much how. Because in the end, the reason why I didn't try to force an interpretation was because I didn't see a way to force an interpretation. It's not like I had the resources at my disposal to hire a whole marketing team,
Right.
like some the Call of Duty team can do. I couldn't. I can't even think of all the different things that they have at their disposal, but I didn't have that. What I did have is I had a great admin team. We had a great team that was passionate about providing content and just showing what it is that we fight for every day. Some of it was that PlanetSide 2 is different, but it was more like we needed to provide the bridge that instantly or within a reasonable amount of time translated from the Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, pick 'em up, shoot an AK-47, which everyone knows what that is, and just finding a way to translate that. Okay, the minigun is, it's a minigun. It fires a lot of bullets. So no matter what you call it, it's kind of just like a different label, and it looks a little bit more futuristic. And then our biggest problem in translation was the lattice, the taking of territory, and just making sure that the viewer knew that we're not talking about 12 on 12 here. What you're seeing in front of you is a small little local area that is happening over the course of, quote unquote, thousands of electronic miles. And that was our biggest problem, and still is our biggest challenge in communicating the difference. In the end, it's the same type of game. It's a first-person shooter. We just needed to provide a translation to the person who doesn't know PlanetSide 2 and needed to quickly understand before they lost interest and moved on.
Have there been any efforts to try to play up or expose more of the either outfits or personalities, maybe even to go as big as servers? I've noticed when I watch esports, like StarCraft as well, people like to attach themselves to a specific player, a certain team name. Like Cloud9 is like probably one of the most well-known, at least I think, one of the most well-known gaming teams on the internet currently. So do you think can there be more done to help expose maybe more outfits to help give viewers an attachment to a certain team?
Oh, yes, the attempt has been made through the pre-match interviews and the post-match interviews.
Uh-huh.
Our obstacle was that, by nature of Jaeger, you can't tell who's playing what in Jaeger. The You're given an account and a password, and it's a randomized account name, and it's a numbered account name, and there's no way to correspond who's using what. Maelstrom attempted to script out some software or program some software that allowed a person, a Planetside Battles account to person identification system, and we had very limited success because there was it was hard to identify who would be using what account and get that in enough time before the match started. It was a big effort. So there was only limited success in that way. But when it comes to, personalities like what's his name? That Dota 2 player, Mindy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
him, and then teams like Cloud9 and Complexity, the difficulty lies in you're not sure who you're watching playing. You're not sure who's playing at the time because all you see is PSB 0114.
Right, right, right.
So if there was a way to show a normal person's name, then I think that the challenge of having your team play and feeling the pride in seeing your outfit playing, I think that would have solved itself from the beginning. But because you can't see who's playing, it created a level of uncertainty and ambiguity that resulted in people just saying, "Oh, it's Cobalt versus Series."
Is there anything maybe you can get from Daybreak Games that can maybe try to alleviate that, or are you just kind of stuck at wit's end right now?
Well, as we were talking, I was thinking of if it was possible that Daybreak had a way to link a player logging into an account. I'll have to engage with our team to see if that's even a possibility. But we have, up until this point, tried to solve the issue ourselves. And like I said, we had limited success. Although Maelstrom put in a lot of hours and did develop a prototype that could work, but it was difficult to execute. So perhaps there is some sort of bridge that the developers can give us, but that's something we'll have to ask and find out if it's even possible.
And just to clarify, Maelstrom is a former Planetside, or former, right?
Yes.
Yeah, former Planetside Battles staff member. I think it was kind of, one of their few IT guys that could help them with these kinds of things. And I think he also ran the PS2 alert tracker for a while before he had to move on and go back to life.
That's right. He used to be an admin as well.
Yeah, 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 that's right. I remember working with him on it was like Server Smash 34. I want to say Miller versus Briggs, and that was a lot of fun. I didn't know what I was doing back there either. So yeah, shout out to Maelstrom. He's a good guy.
Yeah. He did a lot in improving our production value, our production quality, and then just the overall automation of distributing accounts and that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
So any closing thoughts here about Planetside Battles, Planetside 2, or ESL even?
I would say that the questions that you brought up as far as the viability of Planetside 2 in esports and in the competitive environment, I thought those were excellent questions asked by you, and something that the players should definitely be thinking about. My food for thought contribution here is that whether or not our game becomes a huge hit in the esports arena was never my goal, was never our goal. The goal was always to showcase our events and leave the interpretation up to the viewer themselves. All we can do is stream the account or stream the match and then offer it on Twitch and YouTube for consumption. Now, what someone does with that and whether or not they interpret it as esport worthy, that we deliberately did not seek to solve because it would have been a massive undertaking. So the question is definitely worth considering. I would offer that Planetside Battles is not in the business of shaping esports opinion. We're simply in the business of showcasing what is in our game. And that's what's allowed us to survive all these years and not and slow down the burnout rate, is because we are very, very focused in our mission in providing the matches and streaming the matches and leaving the rest up to the viewer. We couldn't have done this without our team. Like I said, right now we have about 55 people. We can't do it without them. We can't do it without the community watching and participating. We could definitely not done it without our faction reps, who put in a lot of hours to organize matches and liaise with communities and help solve problems as they arise. We're all in this together, and our interest is in growing the game. That has always been our interest, and that will continue to be our interest. Whatever the community can figure out that I haven't even thought of yet, just as we once thought of Planetside Battles and it was a new thing, I'm sure that other people can think of things that we haven't thought of, and I would be very interested to hear about ideas that can help our community grow. In the end, well, we're always looking for people to help, and we're all volunteers, so we understand what real life impacts have on volunteership. People like you, I mean, even if you're not Planetside Battles affiliated, people such as yourself and Derringer, and what Rel used to do with his accounts before he became Planetside 2 staff, we help each other out. You help us, we help you. We're all focused on the game, and we're all better for it. As much as Planetside Battles can sometimes be in the crosshairs of Reddit side drama, just know that it's run by people and players who play the game and want to see it succeed. And sometimes that means making decisions that are so we do the best we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Lanzer of Planetside Battles, one of the executive members of Planetside Battles, and good luck in this weekend's faction smash, however that goes, and good luck in future endeavors with ESL here. Good to talk with you.